Right, well, first of all, thank you everyone for coming here today at relatively short notice. Just very briefly to give you a background to what we are announcing today, I'll just take you back to the end of the 90s when the OECD started its proposals to create a more transparent and accessible tax system around the world. In the early days, you might remember the Allan was on the blacklist with the OECD, and even at that time, the Allan recognised the direction of travel where the debate about openness and transparency was likely to go. And therefore, we were one of the first countries to sign up to the OECD model in relation to tax information exchange agreements, and we've worked within the OECD now very actively for the last few years. Over those years, the Allan again has taken the lead in signing more tax information exchange agreements than most other jurisdictions. At the end of the 90s, we were on the OECD blacklist. In 2009, when G20 met in London, we were the first small jurisdiction to automatically go on the whitelist. So over the years, we've followed the international debate. We understand the drive behind it, and we totally agree that this is the right thing to do. As time has passed, the tax information exchange agreements have become more routine, and in 2010, the USA introduced a new concept into international agreements, and that is FATCA. Initially, I think there was some skepticism as to whether it would be accepted, but this is automatic exchange of information on personal accounts, companies, and all related business. But bit by bit, over the last couple of years, the USA has got its legislation together. It's now signed already a number of quite important FATCA agreements with various countries around the world. Now, the Allan will be engaged in that. We have committed to the US that we will sign an agreement with the US, and indeed we would have signed it probably by now, except for the fact that the US is closed at the moment, and we have to wait until there is someone to countersign at the other side. However, in 2012, the Allan also committed to the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom thought it would be appropriate, if we are signing a FATCA agreement with the US, that we should consider signing one with the UK as well. We committed in 2012, and the intervening period has been spent in discussions with UK Treasury to put together a structure which falls within the ambit of the principles of FATCA, and these discussions have been going on now and have been completed this week. So the announcements we are making today is that yesterday I visited Treasury in London, and the Allan has now signed the FATCA agreement with the United Kingdom government. We are the first jurisdiction, apart from the United States itself, to sign with the UK. We are the first small jurisdiction. The Allan once again has shown its leadership in these very important matters, and we believe it is the right thing to do, and I think it will help cement still further, I think, and especially building on Mr. Cameron's comments fairly recently that the Allan should not be considered as a tax haven anymore. I think this is a further very important step which really reinforces that point, and once and for all will enable the Allan to reposition itself as a high-quality, transparent, cooperative international business centre, and we can move away once and for all for these outdated names of tax havens and the like. This is groundbreaking negotiations, not just for the Allan but for the United Kingdom itself. They believe it is a very important event because it sets the pace now for all the other jurisdictions. The other small jurisdictions, the Crown dependencies and the overseas territories, have committed to sign with the UK, and they will be signing in due course. But the Isle of Man, once again, has led the way, and because we believe what we're doing is right rather than what we have to do, are very willing now to partner with the UK to indeed spread out from this agreement to help establish a truly global standard in tax information exchange agreement. FATCA, I believe, and I've said this for quite some time, will set the international standards. It might be patchy to begin with, but ultimately this will be the shape of things to come. And I think if we, because of the ability of the Isle of Man, I think, to have a broader vision than many of our competitors, I think it's absolutely right that we should now join with the UK to work together to build this international standard. Mr. Osborne, the Chancellor, is in Washington at the moment. He's there for the IMF, G20 and various other meetings. He is going to make this announcement this afternoon at 6 o'clock. I signed the agreement yesterday at Treasury with David Gauke, who is the Treasury Minister, and there will be appropriate press releases with their commentary coming out very shortly. So the purpose today really is just to inform you that we have now signed this agreement. This stage of uncertainty now is put to an end once and for all. Our business community will have clarity and, I hope, leadership and know exactly where the Isle of Man is heading so that they can make their own investment plans, and it will help to underpin our long-term strategy of protecting the reputation of the Isle of Man and setting us aside from other small jurisdictions who have been more reluctant to follow the Isle of Man. So that's the news today, and if there's any questions, I'd be very happy to respond.
For people that have been evading tax, do they still have till 2016 to come clean effectively with no penalty? Is that still...
As far as I know, that is the case. I have to say I don't know all the technical details of that. The Isle of Man, of course, has been involved with automatic exchange of information on personal finances with the European Union for a number of years. So we've had agreements there, and that's worked very well. And I think the systems we've had in place have largely driven the evasion business out of the island altogether. What business the Isle of Man has now is, we believe, legitimate and cannot be considered as evasion. And that, again, as I say, has been endorsed by Mr. Cameron, who believes that the Isle of Man should no longer be considered as a tax haven.
And does this extend to trusts?
Yes, companies and trusts.
Okay. What does this mean then to anybody on the street? I mean, all this that you talked about in the past, anybody you said will have gone, has gone, life goes on?
Yes. I mean, we have incrementally over the years working with different countries, whether it's the US or the UK or the European Union, the OECD, we have bit by bit been tightening our grip on the regulation and control of investments passing through the Isle of Man. We believe the steps we have taken have largely cleansed the system over here. We can never be sure that we will not be breached at some point, and neither can any other country in the world be absolutely clear that their systems will protect them from that type of abuse. But the work we put in, I think, has probably largely driven out that sort of business. And so for the average man in the street, it won't mean very much. But for our ability to stand up in the international community to attract new business going forward, it puts the Isle of Man in a very strong place and will help to underpin the economic expansion we need to have over the next few years.
How do you think the business community will welcome this? Because I'm guessing that for some it could give them a sort of a much increased workload.
Yes, there will possibly be compliance costs in all the changes we brought in over the last few years. compliance is probably one of our fastest growing industries at the moment. But we have consulted widely on this right from the start. The business community have known exactly what our strategy has been, what our priorities are. And I think after some initial discussion, the industry by and large agrees with the course of direction that we're going. So this will not come as a surprise. The only surprise, I guess, will be the fact it was signed yesterday. But the fact that it was going to be signed has always been on the cards. As I say, we made our commitment in 2012. The industry knew then what we were doing, and they were very supportive of the line we were taking.
You say this is going to be the way forward in future, in essence. Is it going to, essentially, do you see it as changing the shape and the structure in many ways of the finance sector on the island?
I think we need to just step back, actually. I do think that, yes. But I think we just need to look at the finance industry on the island in the round. There are many changes going on around the Isle of Man at the moment, which will impact on the future shape of the industry. These various agreements obviously will have some impact. But then alongside that, we have the Vickers review, which is going on, which could have a major impact on the banking industry on the island. And there have been other international moves to tighten up regulations and controls and the like. And, of course, the fallout from the credit crunch in 2008 changed the nature of international financial services anyway. So I think this is just one more step. It's a very important step. It's a world leader for the Isle of Man. But it is only part of a wider move, I think, which will impact on the shape of financial services for the future. But I expect, as a result of what we're doing, although it might take a little while to work through, the Isle of Man in the medium to long term will be in a much stronger place than it is at the moment. We will be able to defend ourselves, and we will be able to hold our head up internationally and proudly shout that we are a secure, a safe, a competent jurisdiction which provides high quality services to the financial industry.
But everyone else is signing, are they not? So, I mean, Jersey, Guernsey probably don't like you very much, but they have followed suit. So does it mean it much at all? I mean, because everyone's going to be doing it anyway.
Well, eventually everyone will. But there is a difference between leading the pack, recognising the direction of the debate, which has been going on for some time, and working as a partner with the United Kingdom to stimulate this new global standard, and being dragged along on other countries' coattails, which, mentioning no names, might be the case in other jurisdictions.
How did the Isle of Man get to become the first to sign this? Were you sort of having a fight to sort of get there?
No,
first?
we see FATCA, and certainly as Chief Minister, I see FATCA as simply a logical extension of the work we've been doing for the last 15 years. As I said at the start, this whole debate started at the end of the 90s with the OECD drawing up its blacklist. And that really was the wake-up call that everybody should have listened to at that point. Not everybody did. I took over shortly after as Treasury Minister, and ever since that point, I have believed absolutely that this has to be the direction of travel in the long term to secure our base for high-quality financial services. Probity and reputation has to be a major economic driver for the future, and this puts the Isle of Man in a strong position for that.
Does improved relations with UK Treasury help in other ways as well?
Yes. I have to say, my belief, and I've been dealing with the UK Treasury for 12, 13 years now, I think the Isle of Man's relationship with UK Treasury now is the best it's been, certainly in my knowledge, for the whole of that period. And I think that was borne out, quite apart from this agreement, with our visit to the Tory Party conference last week, where we met the senior Treasury ministers and had a very warm welcome from all of them. And as I say, I think now, bearing in mind we've had some very strained relations with the UK Treasury in the past, it is on a different footing altogether now, and without going into detail, we are already feeling the benefit of their more benign approach to the Allan in other areas.